All right, good morning, good day, wherever you're at, what time it is. Ryan here, My Director Studios. And there's our Believe, Follow, Disciple. All right, Jesus' chair is there, and we're having our morning dialogue with Jesus. Some of the videos I've been watching lately, one of the ones that I felt really compelled to make a video today, which is we pretty much try to make one every day, but today is about why does God allow evil? This one's always really bothered me as I've been with Christ since I was 12 years old. I'm 52, so you can do the math, almost 40 years. But it's really when I was born again and just studying the Bible and going through it over and over. It always bothered me when I heard someone, whether they were, a believer or not, blame God. They blame God in the way that they would say, why does God allow? And then to start out by saying, there's really no easy way to discuss when somebody first suffers something terrible, a death in the family, a tragic accident, whatever it is. There's no easy way to try to comfort someone during this. So bringing up why God allows evil, first of all, I'm going to unpack, and it'll be in the description. It'll be the links of my books. Mainly Chosen is the book that I'm really pulling from here. But when something bad happens to somebody, it's not about trying to talk about theology. It's about loving somebody, being quiet, and comforting them. It's in these discussions now where we're taking a look at theology on why we're saying, why does God allow? There's really three clauses or conditional clauses or points to make on why God has set up free will. That's really the main part here. And then there's a conditional clause in all of this, which is forgiveness, 70 times 7. So to give you an outline of this discussion, there's three parameters that God has set up for his friendship, why he wanted friends, why he chose free will, in his ultimate design. And then no matter how far you get into this design of understanding these components or these parameters, you're not going to be unscathed is a really good term. I mean, you could be the most devout, born-again Christian, have everything walking a super tight line, but Jesus on the cross was really our ultimate understanding of 70 times 7. Here he is on the cross. He created everyone there, all the materials, the metal, the wood, everything. And yet he's saying, Father, lay these things not against them. I forgive them. And I think if we could see that scene, what we'd really see is the blood of the atonement of the cross hasn't happened yet. And it's after then, and even after 3.5 years of walking with the disciples, they still couldn't understand really what the atonement of the blood really allows them to be able to do and to walk in as power and authority over demons and many other things. That hasn't happened yet. So I think here, if we could really see the scene in its completeness, we would probably see that most of the people that were all there were possessed in some way by demons. We don't have the atonement of the cross yet. We don't have the blood of Jesus. So I think it's, through his lens on the cross, it was a lot easier. And for us to understand it, to really say, wow, he can forgive all of them even during that. And yes, that's what was our ultimate example of 70 times 7. So in these three parameters that I'm about to discuss, no matter how clean you might think you are and everything else, it doesn't matter, because evil will happen in the world. Nothing is going to really stop that until his feet land on the Mount of Olives and we have a 1,000-year millennial reign. So these are the three parameters, and ultimately you can rinse, repeat 70 times 7, because it doesn't matter. We just keep forgiving anyone that tries to speak ill will against us. Anything that happens, we forgive them. And we're supposed to love our enemies and pray for them. Okay, so first parameter is going to be the Garden of Eden. Second parameter is going to be your generational affliction, is the term I like to use. curse is the biblical term, but it's really affliction. And then our own sin, our own knowing and unknowing sins, imputed sins. So, or imputed is generational, and our own personal. So in my book Chosen, I really break down the three parameters in whole. Why? First of all, we have to go before Genesis 1:1, and we have to take a look at why God set up this whole system from the heavens and the earth. We could say system, but why he set up these playing fields is how I like to say it. It's the three heavens, and the first heaven, second heaven, and then now we can examine the fall. So when we take a look at first the design, he wanted friends, not people that would be predetermined, pre-wired, pre-coded to be with him no matter what. So the heavens before the fall, they all had the ability to choose and reason and make that choice, just like us. And so what now we have is an overall outline of free will. And now taking a look at it from that lens, where we're saying, okay, he's designed these playing fields, the first and second heaven, and he's designed this relationship of friendship and of the ability for us to reason, now make action, choose, speak it out. And when he does this specific design, he can't just come in and interject every time to try to stop evil, because then now we're not talking about that. We're talking about now a controlling God that's always trying to save, always trying to not have his people be harmed. And so now it's one or the other. Either you're going to design it this way and allow for these things to happen, or you're going to design it the other way. So once we can understand that, then I think a lot of the shift blame and non-ownership, right, can come to the surface. Now we can really take a look at, okay, so I understand this outline, I understand this design, and now it's my ownership in this versus now blaming God. That's the thing that always really bothered me, is why God allows evil, and we're saying this when this is not really how I believe he would want us to speak. It'd be more like evil happens because it's a fallen world, and in that fallen world, we're not going to be all unscathed from this. We have our first generation, we have the Adamic curse, we have the fallen world, and everyone born outside of the garden is now outside of his protection, or at least what was inside the garden was protection. Now outside of the garden, we have this unfortunate event where we must walk through this matrix. We must walk through this world where now we're contending against the 1/3 of the fallen angels that have been cast out, that are now trying to manifest their evilness through our will. And that's all that's happening here. Our free will gives the enemy rights to now go ahead and try to manifest an opposite nature of God. And that's what's happening the entire time. So we can take a look at, okay, the fall of man opens up this paradigm. Now we're talking about generational sin. Generational sin, generational curses, and affliction come down up to the 10th generation. This is what's imputed to us when we're born into this world. So on top of already the Adamic curse, now we're contending against what our generations did in their disobedience as following God to the best of their ability and what so forth. So now my bloodline is going to have to contend against, like in my bloodline, alcoholism was a big deal. So when I was going through high school and college, I really had to wrestle against alcoholism. And fortunately, I've been set free of all of that. I don't drink, I'm sober for the most part, most of the 364 days of the year, maybe 365 or a day or two that I will drink in there and have a beer. But that's not the point. Is my generations had to really contend against these demonic forces of addiction that wanted to cause me to drink, cause me to be an alcoholic, and cause me to not care. So that was what was imputed to me. Now, through this process, what we're talking about is I could sit here and blame God about, why he's allowing all these things to happen to me when I'm not really understanding how my generations of disobedience allow these demonic activities to happen. And then for me to take my rightful place and my rightful inheritance to now follow Jesus with everything I have to help rid these, not only my bloodline, but my future bloodline. So now that's what we're talking about with generational. Now we can get into my own sin, my own personal sin, knowing and unknowing. And in this process where I have known sin that I've already confessed and unknown sin where it didn't track it, right? It's somehow it's been accumulated through this, whether it's through thoughts or actions, things that I've done during the day. And even then, it's being held in regard on a ledger, a spiritual ledger. And Satan's constantly, it says Revelation 12:10, he's constantly telling and petitioning in that second heaven to say, oh, see how he really wanted attention, right? Whatever it is. And so now he's trying to sift me in that, however it is. Just an example. So this is where knowing and unknowing sin is also going to allow this type of buffering or actual physical type spiritual forces against you. So evil is in this world. It's not God that is allowing this evil. It is a complete system that has been set up and pre-wired as far as free will, as far as choice, design, brain, thoughts, reasoning, actions, and now accountability. So you had 1/3 that fell, 2/3 that stayed. That 1/3 that fell, they all had the same ability that we did to reason, to thought, TEA, or thoughts, emotion, actions. And so they all had that ability, and then lost their disembodied spirits. So they lost their inheritance. And now you and I could walk through this earth right now, and we could hold dear to this design of how God set it up, and to not blame him over any of this, but to really take hold of what our inheritance is. And now as we walk through this, we're not blaming God, we're taking ownership. And my past generations, I'm taking ownership by forgiving Adam, by not protecting Eve. I'm taking ownership in the fact that my bloodline has been disobedient up to 10 generations. And now I'm going to stand today for the purity and the righteousness of Jesus and what he has done for me. And now I'm going to try to walk through this crazy world in almost May of 2024, where it's just rampant, absolutely rampant, to not take ownership in anything, to blame and complain. I mean, good gosh, just insane, insidious stuff that happens every single day on this planet. And yet we're supposed to walk through and keep the mind of Christ in everything we do, and then 70 times 7. It doesn't matter what someone says against me or tries to do against me. No matter what happens to me on this earth, I'm going to forgive those that try to harm me, speak ill will against me, and I'm going to pray, right, for them. Whether it's politicians, whether it's friends that betray me, it doesn't matter. Because what I do know is that Jesus was on the cross and he said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pray for them, and hopefully they'll have a relationship with Jesus where they can do the same thing and pray for others. I hope that this message has blessed you. You will find most of the parameters, or the 3 parameters I spoke of, and real thorough breakdown on my book, Chosen. I once again, thank you for watching this video. And as I should say to everyone, shalom, shalom. May the perfect peace, the Prince of Peace, be upon you today. Blessings.